Hi, Nero here, and in this video I want to talk about how much capital growth you actually need in order to double your money in property in say 4 years. You see, because there's been a lot of talk right now about the Sydney property boom ending, and I can see that happening. In fact, some areas of Sydney are actually starting to even go backwards. So when that's the case, what do? Do you just choose to sit out of the market completely and put your money in the bank? Well, that's not really going to give you the growth rates that you want in terms of your money working hard for you. And it's not going to get you to your financial goals, that's for sure. So then you need to look to invest, but where do you invest? And what do you invest in? I mean, the growth rates that Sydney and Melbourne have seen for the last few years is unlikely to be replicated anywhere around the country. Even in some of these markets that are set to take off next and are in their next phase of their growth cycle, I don't believe you're going to get the same growth rates that you've had in Sydney and Melbourne. But does that mean you don't get into those markets? Well, think about it. Imagine if you bought in a property market that averaged just 7% capital growth over the next 4 to 5 years. Now 7% you're thinking, oh, that's nothing. Sydney used to get that in the boom period in about 3 or 4 months, and that's true. But that's unusual. But let's look at what happens if you buy in a market and just get 7% capital growth. What does that do to your money? Right, now I've done the numbers already just in preparation so that you don't see me typing away on a calculator here. So let's imagine now that you buy, first of all, a house. Okay, we're not talking about the apartment market here at the moment because I do believe it's essentially oversupplied and it's unlikely anywhere near 7% growth for the upcoming few years. In fact, in some markets it's going to go backwards. So we're talking about buying a house. So let's just say that you're going to buy a property and it's at $400,000. Now, of course, you're not buying in Sydney and Melbourne for that price, all right? So $400,000. Now, what do you need to get into that property? Well, you need a 20% deposit, which is $80,000. And then you have your costs, like your stamp duty, your legals, all that, which will be about $10,000. So you're looking at getting in for 90K. Now, again, I'm using a 20% deposit because with today's lending environment, with the current lending regulations, which are, I believe, a bit of a conspiracy against us property investors, those 10% deposit with 90% interest only loans are gone. So if you want to put in a 10% deposit, you can, but it means you're going to have to go for a principal and interest loan, which you just got to redo your cash flow numbers on. But in this scenario, I'm going to do it as if you've got a 20% deposit, which means you're going to go for an 80% loan, which is interest only. All right, so into the property, you're putting in your 20% deposit, which is 80 grand, plus your $10,000 cost, total $90,000 into the deal. And we're gonna assume a growth rate of 7% capital growth. All right, so hopefully you can see that in the video. Yes, just. Okay, so here we go. After year 1, what's your property gonna be worth? Well, $400,000 plus 7% growth is gonna give you a value of $428,000. Right, so if you're thinking, yeah, great, that's nothing. All right, after year 2, it's going to be worth, this is where I'm going to turn to my pre-done figures, $457,960. Year 3, $490,017. And then year 4, $524,318. All right, so you bought this thing for $400,000. 4 years later, it's worth $524,000 at just 7% growth per annum. Now, imagine that you decide to sell at that time, if that's your strategy, okay? You'll have to pay some agent's fees, okay, which will be, say, if we assume 3% for a property agent or a selling agent to sell your property, okay? That means you've got to pay them $15,729. which leaves you with, once after selling and all your selling costs, round about $508,587. Okay, that's over $500,000. Now, you need to pay back your, now remember, you need to pay back your debt, obviously, okay? So the debt was 80% of 400, which is 320. So 508 less 320, we're looking now at about $198,000. You only put in 90 grand. So you just turned $90,000 into a little under $200,000 in 4 years with just 7% capital growth. Try that again, 7% capital growth. That's it. That's all you needed to get. You don't need the double-digit growth that we've had over the last few years in Sydney and Melbourne to make big money in property. That's a lazy 100 grand in profit that you've made. Yes, you've got to pay some capital gains tax on that, but that's the case regardless of the capital growth rates that you achieve, right? You're always going to pay capital gains on your profit on buying an investment property. So the question is, now, of course, there is one assumption here that I failed to mention. I've assumed here that when you bought your property, the rental income plus whatever tax rebates you got essentially covered the property holding costs. So in other words, it barely cost you more than a cup of coffee a day. In any case, it might have even made you a cup of coffee per day. All right, and that's again the problem with the Sydney and Melbourne markets right now, with their growth rates going slightly backwards, their rental yields come nowhere near covering the mortgage. So even if they do get any kind of capital growth, a lot of it's going to be eaten up by your cash outflow. In other words, by how much you've got to keep topping up the market every month. So there you go. You just got to find a property that grows at 7% per month, sorry, per annum, per month be great, per year for 4 years, and a property where the rent and tax rebates cover the mortgage. And if you're buying something for $400,000, you can make yourself a lazy 100 grand in 4 years. So now how do you do it? What markets are going to look to rise at 7%? Well, this is where I apply the rule of what if I'm wrong? I look to the markets, therefore, they're going to rise at 10% or 11% plus. Because then if I'm wrong and I only get 7% growth, I still get double my money in 4 years. And if you could double the amount of money you have in the next 4 years, what would that mean to you? Imagine if you had an extra 100 grand in the next 4 years that you didn't really have to work for. The property does all the work for you. It's not as if you're buying and renovating this thing. I mean, yeah, look, that is another strategy. Lots and lots of people are going to start talking about as the Sydney and Melbourne markets start to cool. Should you buy older property and renovate or subdivide and develop? You can. But for me, I don't want to do the work. I want my property to do the work. I'd much rather find areas that are going to give me that 7% capital growth over the next few years in markets where the rents cover the mortgage than sit back and let my property do all the work for me. So if you'd like some help with that, if you're looking for markets that, yeah, look, you'd like to make at least 7% or more in capital growth, areas that are expected to grow at 10%. So if I'm wrong and only get 7%, I double my money. But if I'm right, how much more money do you make? A lot more. So if you'd like some assistance with that, just to find these kind of properties, there'll be a link below this video. Click the link and see if we're the right people to help you out. Now, if you don't see a link below this video, or if you go to the page and it says all my appointments are booked out, it means that I'm done, I'm full for the year, right? Because I've only got so much time in my diary. It's just me. I do all these appointments personally. I don't want anybody else seeing people when they don't have the experience to help you. So if you'd like some assistance with investing in property, from me personally, click the link below this button and see if I'm right to help you. Otherwise, let me know what you think about this video. 7% capital growth, that's all you need to double your money. I'd love to hear from you. Bye for now.